You always have people out there who are trying to leverage the situation to, get you to give them money or to take your money. I don't know if you guys realize it, but since we've all been home, the phone calls are all ringing off the phone. So I want you to pay attention to this because this will give you some information as to how you can reduce your risk and protect your identity. Next slide. All right, so this section is risk to your assets, and that's what we'll be focusing on. Next slide. So the key takeaway for this particular section is being aware of your risk related to your assets until you're able to take steps to reduce them. So we want you to be aware of your risk right now as they relate to your assets until you're able to actually reduce such risk. So let's go to the next slide and I'll talk to you about what we mean. So the key here is reducing risk to your assets. You cannot eliminate all risk. You can reduce some of them. You can make informed choices that anticipate risk. You want to be careful with personal information. You want to know your rights and responsibilities. And also, you need to get insurance. Okay. So, this section is all about protecting the things that you currently have. That would be your car, probably. That would be your apartment, furniture, and things you have in it. Any banking accounts or institutions that you do business with, any accounts with them. All right. Next slide. So the key takeaway is being aware of your risk to your assets prepares you to take steps to reduce those risks. So we'll go into that. Next slide. Identity theft and fraud. This is one of the biggest pieces of information that you will receive that allows you to get ahead of someone trying to steal your identity. So next slide. So the key takeaway is that you can reduce your risk of identity theft. However, there is help available if something happens to you. Next slide. Identity theft basics. Your identity is an asset. Identity theft is a crime that happens when someone uses a person's identifying information without authority. So can we stop here and just talk about what do you consider to be your identifying information? What would you consider as your identifying information? Anybody?
Your driver,
Okay, Velma?
your driver's license.
Your driver's license is identifying information, and it's really your driver's license number. That's a
Yes.
good one.
Social security number.
Social security number is a very good one. That's a big one we have to worry about. Okay, very good. So we can go to the next slide. So what do we mean by identity? Documents that have information about your identity. We've given some examples. We talked about Social Security, your Social Security card. Also, Velma mentioned um, your driver's license, right? So your driver's license, there are different things that you have. Yes, people are saying your date of your birthday, your address, your phone number, anything that you have that has that type of information on it. Even our credit cards have um, our name on there. All those kinds of things are subject to people trying to steal your identity. So very good. Next slide. How could you be harmed? So I love this particular slide because it shows you that there are ways that people have, sneaky ways of getting the information on your credit cards, debit cards, all those things that we carry around with us every day, driver's license, what have you, through technology today, because technology is just growing at a rapid pace. So let's go to the next slide so we can talk about what some of those things are. So criminals can steal your identity through phishing. So all of us probably have already heard of the term phishing, Phishing, and that's when someone's tricking you into giving, your personal information, often through email. But what I didn't know, because I'm learning too, is that this new thing is called vishing, and then there's even a newer thing called smishing. So vishing is phishing by telephone, and smishing is phishing by text messages on our cell phones. I'm going to tell you, I have an asterisk here by phishing by phone because since we've all been home during the pandemic, I'm getting phones every day where people are phishing. What they're doing is they're calling and they're saying, I'm with Social Security Administration, and we've found out there's a breach on your Social Security number. And if you just hold this line or press one, we will be with you. And then someone comes on and they're fake and they're saying, I'm with the Social Security and da 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 da. They're really fishing for information, and they're leveraging my telephone number to do that, my home phone. And I just hang up on them. But many of you may be in that same situation. Anybody, since we've come out of the office and out of other places, and we're kind of staying home to stay safe, anybody getting a lot of phone calls where people are trying to dupe you?
A
Every
lot.
day.
Yes, yes. So that's why I was saying this is something that it was wise of Miss Juanita to select protecting identity, because right now and for the time that we're in the pandemic, it's really getting bad. So you got to be careful about information that you're sharing either over the phone or on your text. Spear phishing is targeted phishing. So this is where maybe they have information on you and me. Maybe it's around, maybe because they buy information, so that's how they have our phone numbers and our addresses and things. But when they target it, what they're doing is saying, okay, I see Miss Amanda Blakey has really good credit, and so what I want to do is call her and pretend as though I'm her credit card company, and I'm going to lower her rate. And they may, in fact, be able to lower your rate, but you don't know who's legit and who isn't. So stick with your credit card company or call them first to see if they, in fact, are the ones getting ready or interested in lowering your interest. Don't just take what someone tells you over the phone. So that's targeted. I'm targeting, I've got information, and I'm targeting people that I think I can get on board. Farming, fake websites, lots of those. I would say when you're going out to websites that are government related, if you don't see .gov on the end, don't use the information. And so there are other types of ways that you can check out a website. Sometimes you can put in different things to search on and sort of walk through them. And if you go through like the first five, you can usually tell which one is fake and which one is official. Okay. So just be careful. Skimming, that's a big one today, stealing a credit card or debit card numbers. And my understanding is when we're going to the automated teller machine, which I do a lot of because I'm not going to work and going to the bank or a credit union, if there's someone that's too close behind you, You may want to step out of line, give that person the chance, and you wait until there's no one behind you, because apparently they can use certain tools to skim off our information, whether it be our credit card number or something else there that delineates the card belongs to us. Social media scamming. I'm not on social media. And one of the reasons I'm not on it, because I don't want to be out there in the public too much. But for those of you who are on social media, I'm going to just say be very, very careful when you see things pop up. All right, next slide. So these are warning signs of identity theft. Withdrawals that you didn't make from your checking or savings account or investment account, missing bills and statements. That's another one you should be concerned about. If you know that prior to the pandemic, you would get your Visa card bill every month, maybe say around the 5th, and you haven't seen it in 2 months or so, call the company to see what's going on, to see if there's any activity on your account. Merchants refusing your checks. If you've used checks routinely and all of a sudden you go to a food store, I usually use my checks when I go buy groceries. If the and because I go to that same store all the time, once I use my check, they never really have to give me, they don't take long to accept it. If somebody refuses it, that's a sign for you that it could be someone trying or have tried to get your identity. So don't take it lightly. And the same thing with credit card transactions that all of a sudden are not going through for you. Okay. And I put a star by the one that says withdrawals you didn't make, because I have experienced this one where someone has gone into, I've had a long standing checking and savings account for over 25 years. And I guess maybe about a year or so ago, I would see my statement and I wouldn't see hefty amounts. I'd see something like $5, $3, and then it would go up $10. And so I went to my credit union and explained it to them, and they reported it as an issue. And I haven't seen any since. So I'm going to encourage everybody on this Zoom meeting to make sure that if you work with a credit union or a banking institution, make sure you review all of your bills and your statements. Take the time, because it can save you a lot of trouble. If you want to know what they were doing, is they were using those small amounts, because is once they got away with them over a certain period of time, then they were going to ratchet it up to take $500 or $1,000 out. So that's why I say take the time to look at your bills. Any questions right now before we move on?
No, not at this time.
Great. Okay, next slide. More warning signs of identity theft. Letters about accounts that you didn't open, emails about purchases that you didn't make, statements for credit cards that you do not own or that you didn't sign up for, debt collectors calling about debts that aren't yours, and unfamiliar passwords or usernames when you go out online to put your information in. Okay, those are big, big signs that something is awry. Um, I will give you an example. Probably about 2 weeks ago, I got a call from a gentleman saying that he was calling me because my Amazon purchase was placed and ready to go. And but if I didn't make that Amazon purchase, just hold on the line. And it was just a prank. There was never an Amazon purchase. There was never anything like that. He was waiting for me to get online to start asking me questions. And I guess he was going to leverage information. And so when I reached out to Amazon, they said it's not. No, I reached out to my credit card company that I used to purchase Amazon items. and they said there's no transaction here. We've heard about this. This is routine. So just be on the lookout, particularly right now while we're all home. Next slide. Additional warning signs, unfamiliar accounts on your credit reports. You guys should be looking at your credit reports at least every 12 months. Medical bills for services you didn't receive, health records for conditions that you don't have, multiple tax returns or inaccurate tax records, and any notifications about a data breach. Before you jump out, you get a notification about a data breach, make sure you call that company that you've done business with over the years to ensure that in fact there was a data breach before you start talking to someone. Okay. The medical bills for services you didn't receive, what I will say is in this time where a lot of people are sick, a lot of people are going to the hospital, the medical billing system is stretched to its capacity. And so maybe you went to the doctor, let's say, for a routine checkup, and it's normally $30. You could get a bill for $300 or $3,000 because there are a lot of different contractors and people touching those types of things today because we're all home. And what I would suggest to you is anytime you have any medical bill, please sit down and take the time to not just review the bill thoroughly for mistakes with the services that you receive, but please do the calculation that is on that bill. I had a situation with my mom when she got cancer and had to come here and live with us. And she was all upset one morning. She got this bill and it was $6,000. And my mother had the best health care insurance there was, which is Blue Cross Blue Shield at that time in the United States. And as I poured through her bills, I found that that was a mistake. And it was $600 versus $6,000. There was an extra zero. And so pay attention to your bills. The other thing I found is that the billing companies will keep sending the same bill until they've actually cashed your check. So be very careful, keep up with your documents, okay? Next slide. Step to minimize identity theft. These are steps that I want you to focus on after the class and after the training. Miss Juanita will give you the presentation and you want to focus on these things right here. Guard your personal information as best you can. Don't respond to unsolicited requests. If somebody's calling you about something and you didn't call them, you're not interested. Protect your mail. If you are, say you've transitioned from one place to another, you're going to be gone for a while, make sure that the United States Postal Service knows that you're going to be out of town and they need to hold your mail because you don't want people getting access to it. Sign up for direct deposit if you haven't already done so. It's a really good way to help you stay on track with your bills and things without having to look for something in the mail. Clean up your financial trash. I'm always getting things and in the finance space, like say my credit card bill, it has the information there. When I finish with it, I rip it into shreds. If you don't have a shredder, just rip them up and throw it in with the recycle information or the trash that's dirty. Clean up your financial trash and also review your financial accounts regularly and carefully so that if something is amiss, you know about it sooner than later. So you shouldn't go more than 30 days without reviewing your accounts, okay? Next slide. More steps to help you minimize identity theft. Be very careful of identity theft on the internet. It is on the rise. as we've mentioned, and more so now that we are all at home. So protect all your devices, your cell phones, and all those things. Review your credit reports at least once, not every year, but every 12 months. So every 12 months from the time that you got a credit report, you're entitled to another free credit report. Keep your important documents secure. If you're living in a place where, let's say you live with an aunt and she has a boyfriend and your sister, keep your information separate and secure. Maybe you don't know enough about that person in that's dating your aunt right now. Keep your information secure so that you don't have anything to worry about. Beware of disaster related scams. There are many, many out here. And although Texas is in a presidentially declared disaster area right now and probably experiencing scams and will experience them, we are all in a disaster related situation with the pandemic. So scams are all over. Just be very, very careful and follow up to make sure that folks are legitimate. Read scam alerts. And I always say the best way for you to know who's a scam and who isn't when you're in a situation like a disaster is to listen to the news each night, because a lot of times they're the first one getting that information, and they will also let you know who you should be working with and who you shouldn't. Next slide. So here's one that is I found very helpful, because for I never knew for years that there was a reporting identity theft document that we can fill out and use to get help. So this is the document. Again, you will have this in your deck. You want to hold on to the document that Miss Juanita shares with you electronically, because unfortunately, you may have to locate this credit report, identity theft report, and create one and fill it out. And if you do, just remember that identitytheft.gov is a legitimate site of the United States government, and they can help you with this particular report. Okay, so this is something that you should hold on to in the event you need it. Next slide. If your identity has been stolen, in addition to completing that identity theft report online, you need to also work with the three credit reporting agencies. Can anybody tell me who they are? No takers?
Equifax,
Equifax.
Experian,
TransUnion
Mhm.
and TransUnion.
And
TransUnion.
TransUnion. Very good, good. So you want to go to all three if you experience any type of identity theft, because each of them, as I've mentioned before, has a little bit, a little difference in the information they report for you. So you want each one of them to receive the information if, unfortunately, there's been some identity theft. So the first thing you want them to do is place a free fraud alert on your credit reports. Now you can determine how long you want that fraud alert. So if you know that you're getting ready to buy a car in the next 6 months, then you don't want to have your fraud alert on your credit reports for 6 months. You may want it for 4 months. If you know you're not going to be using it, using credit for a while, you may want it for years, particularly if it's something severe. Dispute inaccurate information. That's important for you to make sure you write a letter to the credit bureaus disputing inaccurate information. And again, consider placing a credit freeze on your account. So the fraud alert is just to let you know if somebody's trying to tap into your account or whatever. This freeze is no one can touch that account and use it to give money or something, or give you a credit card unless you authorize it. So that's the difference between the alert and the freeze, and you make the decision. Someone has a question for me. So it says SDHC does use encrypted emails. Okay, maybe that wasn't for me.
They were asking if we used encrypted emails to send out sensitive documentation, and I responded with yes, we do. When
Yes,
it's sensitive items, we do have it encrypted and sent to you.
very good. And that was a really, really good question. We do as well in the federal government space, and we're often, pushed to make sure that we follow those rules. But that was an excellent question, because that's people can get your identity from all kinds of places. Next slide. So you want to also communicate with your creditors, the people that you have extended credit to you, as well as those that you owe money to, right? The debt collectors and any creditors, they need to know what's going on. So you want to alert them about your fraudulent acts, or accounts rather. You want to get copies of documents related to the theft of your identity. And whatever you do, please maintain all the documents that you use when you're pursuing something like this, because you might not be ready to buy a house today, but maybe 4 years down the line, you go to buy a house and the mortgage company sees something that was tied to some fraudulent activity on your account that you resolved 4 years ago. They're going to ask you about it, and it's easier for you to go into your little file and say, here's how it was resolved. Okay. Also, you want to communicate with your creditors and your debt collectors to ask them to stop contacting you about fraudulent accounts that you've addressed. And you want to get written information about fraudulent accounts, particularly for those you've addressed, as I mentioned earlier, so you will have a record of them. Next slide. So you have other federal rights, and you can go see identitytheft.gov on your own time and see all the rights that you have as a person that has credit and or debt. You generally have a limited liability for fraudulent debts and accounts caused by identity theft. You want to go to usa.gov to learn about your rights when there's a data breach. You could be working for the city of San Diego and the city has a data breach. There are rights that you have to help you get through determining whether or not you've been affected by that data breach. So just remember you have rights. Next slide. So remember the key takeaway: you can reduce your risk of identity theft. Help is available if it happens to you, so don't despair. So now let's go into how we're going to protect our assets. So this section is about insurance and record keeping. I talked a little bit a few minutes ago about record keeping, but this is about insurance and record keeping. Next slide. So our takeaway is insurance provides protection from financial loss. Keep accurate records of your assets and any damages to your property. So let's jump into this section. How insurance works. Well, you see this gentleman here, he's on his sofa and he has his telephone book and his cell phone, and his water that's in his home is almost up to his knees. So this is talking about how you should protect your assets. Reduce the financial impact of a loss or event covered by the insurance company. So this is what insurance does. it reduces all of us, for all of us, the financial impact that we have to spend and put out when there's a loss or event covered by the insurance policy. And it has to be in writing in the insurance policy. Insurance also works by helping protect us from financial catastrophe. If you had, if you parked your car somewhere and something happened, there was an accident and the car blew up and you just bought the car, you want to have that car insurance so you're protected. When you go to buy a home, you want to make sure that once you purchase that home, you get a insurance policy. In fact, depending on how you secure that particular home or purchase it, you likely will have to get a mortgage. And if you get a mortgage, the mortgage company is going to require you to have protection on the home. That's to protect their part of the asset until you finish paying them, and also to protect your things inside your home, your beautiful furniture, your clothes, your handbags, your jewelry, all those things. Okay. So make sure that you protect not just your home, but you need to protect your apartment as well, because you still have beautiful clothes, beautiful shoes, beautiful jewelry, all those things you want protected. Next slide. So key terms today: insurance premium, covered loss, covered limit, and deductible. So deductible is a common one. Anybody have, can anybody explain to the rest of the class what a deductible is?
You will pay the first part of the bill, whatever your deductible, whether it's 250 or 100, you pay that and then they pay the rest.
That's right. Very good. So a lot of times the insurance companies will require us to have a little stake in the game. So we have to pay up front a deductible. And as Amanda mentioned, it's usually a small amount. Coverage limit. Coverage limit is maybe you have with your policy, if you owned a home. I have a policy around having to dig up the septic and things like that, which is really expensive. And I have the policy, but there's a limit that the insurance company will pay. So they will pay a certain amount, and my husband and I would be responsible for the rest. So that's the coverage limit. I have coverage, but it's not indefinite. It's not infinite. It's for a specific dollar amount. Covered loss. Covered loss is, let's say you have a car. I think I mentioned this to you guys before. I had a little cute car, and I went to work one day. While I was home, I parked my car. I go into my place. When I come out, someone had broken into my car. My car was covered. My covered loss was the car and anything on the car, but they didn't cover the music. I had at that time a lot of really nice tapes that were in a nice box that you could carry them in, kind of like a suitcase, and they would not cover those things, but they would cover all of the damage to the car. So that's what we mean by covered loss. Insurance premium, you guys probably know that because a lot of you are paying insurance premium either for your rental insurance on your property in your apartment, or your homeowner insurance, or more importantly, your insurance for your car or automobile. Okay. Any questions about those definitions? Everybody understand them? Okay,
Yes.
great. Let's go to the next slide. So we got more terms.
Yes, ma'am.
You good? Okay. Good.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So more terms. Co-payment. All right. So you have co-payments and you have co-insurance. Um, they're kind of like the same thing. You may have to offer up some money in order to have the insurance company cover you. I think there was a time when we had to pay about $500 if we had a fire on the house, and we might have to pay that to our insurance company, Allstate or something, a co-payment, and then they would pay the rest for the damage. The exceptions or exclusions, those are the first things you want to read when you get any type of insurance policy, because what the insurer is telling you is that I'm insuring you for everything but. And the but is the things that they're not insuring you for are in that exceptions or exclusions section of the policy. Okay. So if you don't read anything, gotta read that so you know what isn't covered as much as what is covered. Claim, that's what you will file if, unfortunately, you have a car accident or you have a fire in your home or something like that. You want to file a claim, but you want to be careful. You want to be careful. Don't be frivolous in filing claims, because insurance companies can drop you, and if you get to a point where they're dropping you, other insurance companies may not pick you up, and if insurance companies do pick you up, they may charge you a hefty premium for doing business with them. So you want to file legitimate claims, claims that you really need help with. Adjudication. Adjudication is just when you work with the insurer, and they may cover so much and you may cover so much. Um, I just had an issue with adjudication after having been in a car accident last year, and we just finished the adjudication a few months ago. And what the car insurance company, even though it wasn't our fault, my fault, and my cousin, it wasn't our fault. Everybody acknowledged that the lady that hit us was wrong, but the adjudication came down to how much money we would take to solve and settle the case. And so you guys know who I am. I like my hold on to my money. Obviously, I was the last holdout, but we were able to adjudicate it, and I was able to get my money. So that's what they mean by adjudication. Next slide. Types of insurance. Healthcare insurance is one that most of you will likely have. Long-term care insurance is there for us people if we get older, maybe say in our 70s or 80s. We may want home long-term care insurance. Dental insurance is a good one these days. Vision insurance. Sometimes you can go to a vision center and they may have an even better insurance policy than you might have at work. A lot of these companies are trying to lure people in. And so they have some decent policies there. Not all, but some. Disability insurance, life insurance, and pet insurance. Anybody have pet insurance?
I do.
Okay, all right. So that was a new one for me. I don't know what does it do? Pay for like pet burial or something? Or and
Would it,
help and they get sick?
yes, it covers, you get reimbursed for the expenses
Mhm.
for the health.
Okay.
So if you take them for shots, if they have
Yeah.
a hospitalization or certain procedures done, you pay for it up front and then they reimburse you.
Reimburse you. Okay, great. All right. So for those of you who may be on the line and you are a little bit older, or maybe as you get older, you want to think about this. The long-term care insurance tends to be cheaper if you purchase it uh, right around the time you turn 60. So you want to get it right before or right once you turn 60. As we get older, the long-term care insurance cost gets higher. So just think about that if as you're aging, a lot of you probably don't need it now, but at some point we probably all are going to need that long-term care insurance. Next slide. So the identity theft insurance, it just helps with all the things that I talked about in the previous lesson. It will help you to cover probably some of the things that you've lost, particularly things that aren't tied to your financial institution. So we know that with the financial institution, if there's theft, you get your money back. Does anybody know how much the FDIC will cover for any monies that you lose due to identity theft? Anybody? Okay. $250,000 per account. Okay. We've got vehicle insurance, renter's insurance. I always encourage you guys, you have nice things and you've spent your money working to get those things in your apartment, and it doesn't cost that much to get renter's insurance. So make sure you do that. Homeowners insurance, obviously, if you get a home, that's usually our biggest investment. And so you definitely want to have a good homeowners insurance policy. And if you live in certain areas where FEMA has designated them to be flood areas, you're going to need that flood insurance. And so you can determine that based on where you live. All right. And you can go to FEMA.gov if you have any questions about that. Next slide. So getting insurance depends on your individual circumstances. Purchase it to manage risk to your assets. Consider it for things that could happen and cause serious financial harm. Some insurance is required by law, and periodically review your coverage and shop around. So let's focus on this a bit. As we mentioned, everything depends on our individual circumstances, but I will tell you that you have assets that you probably don't even regard as assets. Eyeglasses, wedding ring, some jewelry, clothes, those are your assets. Handbags, things like that, coats, furniture, lamps, all your assets. So with this thing, when we talk about purchase it to manage risk to your assets, that means you're not out of pocket and you haven't lost all the things that you've worked for 2 or 3 years to get in your apartment. You're not out of pocket. You're not starting from scratch. You have that in that small monthly payment with the insurance company so that they can cover everything. And you should take pictures to make sure they know what types of things you have in your apartment. Consider insurance for things that could happen. The reason I have these words highlighted is because something's gonna happen in life. It's just life. I have lived my whole life and never been in a terrible accident until 2019. And thank God we all got out and we were able to walk, but it was still a really, really bad accident. You just never know when something's gonna happen. Someone else was being foolish and ran a red light. So you always want to have insurance in the event that something happens. Doesn't have to be your fault. Some insurance is required by law. This is a big thing. Most states require automobile insurance. Most states require automobile insurance. And periodically look at that coverage and shop around, because sometimes companies will offer you a lower rate. They may be promoting a lower rate, or they may say, hey, you've got car insurance here and you've got apartment insurance here. It's going to be lower because you have both policies with us. To Ms. Vogel, in terms of was I happy with my attorney? Yes, I was happy with him. I pushed back a little bit, but I pushed back gently and often, and he was able to secure what I thought was reasonable. So, did that answer your question, ma'am?
She also wanted to know who the attorney was for the car accident. I don't know if it's relevant because you're in,
Yeah,
uh,
he's in Maryland. Yeah, I'm not in San Diego. Yeah. But I would say if you know of anybody that's had an accident, you might want to check with them. And also, whatever you do when you're looking for an attorney, go online. There's tons of information now where they will tell you what type of, they'll tell you whether that they had a good experience, someone had a good experience with an attorney. Bernie Sanders says, I missed that.
Bernie Sanders says we are going to rein in the insurance companies. How so?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm not sure how he thinks he can do that. That's something that's out of my bailiwick. But I would imagine his concern is that they are too expensive, and he's likely talking about the healthcare insurance companies. I know he's been concerned about them for a while and about the fact that we pay too much for the services that we get. So more in the news for that one. Next slide. Good question, though. Shop around. Review state-specific information as it relates to those insurance companies you're doing business with. Check out insurance companies. The gentleman that talked about the issue with Bernie Sanders. This is where the web sites really help me whenever I'm not too sure about a professional that I'm going to do business with, whether it's a doctor, whether it's an insurance company. I take my time going through the internet to see what others have to say about them. And more often than not, if you get people that have a lot of high marks, you will be fine. Okay. So we're almost down to the last four. So you're going to shop around by reviewing state-specific information. You're going to check out insurance companies online, ask about discounts if you're getting more than one product with them, compare several quotes, and consider trade-off between deductibles, coinsurance, your coverage limits, and premiums. You have to determine what's most important for you when you get that policy. Next slide. Keep accurate records. I've probably gone through this more enough today than you guys want to hear, but it's important for making sure that you have good records. It's important that part of that your insurance adequately covers your risk. You want to create and maintain a list of your assets. You should have a value of them. That fancy handbag, that nice jacket, you want to have a value attached to that in the event something happens to your assets. Document any damages, and also file claims as soon as possible. Next slide. So remember our key takeaway: insurance provides protection from us, for us, so that we don't lose too much of our finances. Keep accurate records of your assets and any damages to your property. And the last slide is saying, what will I do? How will I do it? And how will I share my plans with anyone? And I'm going to say that you should go back and revisit the things that you have in the insurance space, and you should understand your policies and you should be keeping track of all of your assets. And you should talk to Miss Juanita in terms of sharing your plans with someone about what you've done to protect your assets so she can validate or invalidate what you've done or give you some more information. So that's it.
Perfect. As always, thank you, Miss Ivory. We had a slow start today, and I want to thank everyone for being patient with us today. I do have this recorded. I will send it out along with the PowerPoint, as Miss Ivory indicated, to those that attended today. And I will be seeing you in the next workshops. We're having a few, and I'm sure you all have those informations already. In the conscious of time, I'm going to go ahead and close out today so everyone gets back to what they need to do. All right. Thanks for showing up. See you soon.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. See you.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank
Nice
you
seeing you
so
again, Ivory.
much.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Take care. Thank